Amanda here, thanks for joining me. So we're going to create with these paper dolls. Okay, so I've printed mine on cardstock and I've fussy cut all of them. Might not do all of them on camera because there's, how many is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we've got 7. So these are in my vintage Ballerina ephemera collection. I'll leave the link in the description below. It's available for just £1. It's my August special. Right, that's the business talk out of the way. Let's get creative. So in preparation, I've fussy cut the dolls. I have printed out these tags, which are free on my Facebook group. I've sewn around them and I've distressed them. I've got heaps of scrap lace and scrap fabric. I've got some longer lengths here. I've got some bows that I've dug from goodness knows where. I've had some of these probably about 50 million years. I've got some of this little rosebud type lace that I just got off Temu and I just cut the little bits. I've got some butterfly wings because I might turn some into fairies. And I've got some bits and bobs of bling that I've again dug out of the deepest, darkest depths of my craft hoard. I don't know what I'm going to use or what I'm going to do. How cute are these little tiny things? I used to sell all these years ago. I used to sell them all. I haven't got time for that now. I haven't got time for packing little bits of stuff and oh goodness me. Right, so let's just move the tags. So I'm going to do some of the paper dolls and then as we go through I'll think of ways you can use them. So obviously one way of using them is to decorate them and then add them to your tags. You're adding dimension, you're adding texture, blah blah blah. You can add them direct to a journal page, okay, and have it as a little tuck spot. Add it to a pocket. You can add them to the front of your journal, you know, lots of pretty lace on. You could also put paper clips on the back and have them as like hidden paper clips or page tabs, or there's loads of things. They're just really pretty, aren't they? Right, so she's already got wings on, so we don't need wings on her. So I've got these again from the darkest bowels of my hoard vault. These I've had years. These are recollections, and what I'm going to do is I've literally had these. I think my crafty friend Pauline sent me these and I've literally had them forever and 10 days. So I'm just going to I'm just going to take the body of the butterfly off, which is very well made because can I get it off? Can I yuck? I'm just going to snip it. Okay, so these are like, they feel like they've been made with like rubber, or I suppose you could make these with hot glue, couldn't you? Bit of wire, put it on your desk, fill it with hot glue, put glitter on. So let's have a look. Where am I going to have these butterfly wings? I think they're quite nice on her, aren't they? So in the first instance, I'm going to add this to the back of her. Now I'm going to be using hot glue because it's faster, okay? I don't really like using hot glue on lace and fabric because I think it can make it a little bit hard. However, you know, the ones that I do off camera, I will be using my collal, or I will put them on and then run over it with my sewing machine. But for the purpose of the video, I'm going to use hot glue. Now, the trick with using hot glue, if you're using lace and fabrics, is to make sure that your glue is really hot. Obviously, be careful not to touch it because it will burn you. No matter how many years of experience you've got, it will burn you. And put some on and then press as hard as you can to flatten it so that it's not bulky, and be minimal and get it on quick before it dries. That's the trick, in theory. So this one here, that one's already got wings on. I might put on the back of this one, so that's quite cute, and I might just leave them white. Yeah, quite like that. Just need to make sure I might stick the wings on after I've added the so obviously you don't have to add lace to them. You can just put butterfly wings on. You can leave them as they are. These would be nice if I added embossing powder and heat set them, but I don't have loads of these wings. My friend Karen sent them in. I've hoarded them, so I might just leave her like that as an example We'll see. So this one here, am I going to add some more lace? I needed to cut her arm out really. Right, let me get my little crafty knife. And I'm just going to, very carefully, let me just slip her. Okay, so I decided to speed the video up and do a voiceover because at the end of this video it went on for about 45 minutes, which is a little bit too long. I'll apologise in advance if my hair is in the shot. That happens when I've got the camera quite high up so that you've got a wider view of my desk. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of cutting around the arm to partially lift it up from the image so that I can slot the lace underneath. I do go and adjust it even further later on to try and just get a sharper kind of a line where the waistline is. So I waffled on for quite a bit in this video, so there was a lot of talking. So I'll try and keep to the point. So I've got a pretty gathered lace, and all I'm doing is tacking it down with hot glue, trying to gather it around the waist so that it's got some, you know, layers, so you can see the folds rather than it just being flat and pulled tight. It just gives it more volume, and it just looks prettier. And just tacking it down with small amounts of hot glue, and then press it carefully, you know, with your fingers to flatten it down so that it's not bulky. I personally don't like bulky items in my journals, that's just me. But, you know, if you keep them quite minimal, they'll be fine. And they'll be so cute and so pretty. And what a great way to use up lace. I have got loads of lace. I was recently gifted quite a big bundle of lace as well. So I was determined to use some of it on this project. So you can just see here, I'm just trimming out further under the arm area so that I can nip in at the waist a little bit. I should have added the wings after, but there you go. So basically, you just keep adding until you're happy with how it lays. You can always pull the lace back again if you've used hot glue. If it won't remove easily, you can run your heat tool over it and melt the glue, and that will help you remove it. So I'm just looking for things to nip in at the waist there, just to make it like cohesive rather than it looking like I've just randomly stuck loads of things on. And another reason that I fast forwarded the video is because I do change my mind an awful lot with this kind of crafting, which is why I don't always do videos like this, because I change my mind, you know, and if something doesn't look right when you're doing a video, then you're kind of like, oh, that's not good. So yeah, I do adjust. I was going to have these pieces of seam binding hanging down. I thought it'd look really cute, but later on I do change my mind and I cut them off again. But that's crafting, you just go with it. Nothing has to be perfect, and you can absolutely change your mind. There you go, I'm chopping them off. I will use those bits again for something else. They'll go in my scrap box and I'll make a little bow so nothing gets wasted. I bought this really pretty lace from Temu really inexpensively, knowing that I would cut it apart, and I like the pink and the green, and I want to add that to the waistline just to accentuate it. Maybe kind of disguise some of the bulk and the fact that the waist with the lace is a little bit wider than the actual image of the doll, and it just makes it look cohesive. And so there I'm faffing about trying to decide what to do, and I end up making do with as it is, because sometimes you can just add too much, and I am guilty of that. Sometimes less is more. So I'm adding some of the pretty lace to a tag as a bit of a background, and then I'll add this paper doll to a tag. I will show you all the paper dolls that I've completed at the end, so you can see them all in detail. But that looks lovely, and it's, like I say, it's adding texture. It's just something a little bit different, and the best part about it is they're awful fun to make. So this one I'm just adding a simple die cut to the back, and then I'm trying to figure out how to add a small amount of lace to a dress, but I want it to accentuate and add. I don't want it to take away from the image. It's already pretty. Her dress is already pretty, so I don't want to cover it up. So I end up using a very minimal little white lace, and I think it looks really cute, and it's just a little plain floral white lace. I was thinking about adding lace to the bottom, but I would have had to chop her legs off, and we don't want that. So I decided to leave her as she is. So that one's finished. Sometimes, as I say, less is more. You don't have to go overboard with everything. So this one here again, I'm going to add some more gathered lace to. Gathered lace is easier because, you know, the gathers are already done for you. I think on this one actually I decided to use strips. And so I'm toying between the gathered lace and the strips, and I end up going for strips. So all you need to do is just glue them on. Just tack a few of them down so they're not moving about, and you can kind of have a plan from there. Then I trim it off far too long, and as we get towards the end I will cut it to size when I've done, so that I can judge the length of it nicely. Okay, any little scrap bits will go in my scrap box, and I will use them on things like clusters. You know, it's very rare I do throw lace away. Bits of scraps of paper, yes. Lace, no, that's a different subject. I can be full of contradictions if I like, that's fine. So here I'm using up the seam binding that I cut off the previous one. I've told myself I'm going to use it so it doesn't get wasted, and it just adds a bit of colour, and it ends up looking really, really stunning. Now when you're doing this type of a thing as well, it's almost a trust the process kind of a thing. You might think, oh well, that doesn't look great now, I've added that lace on and it looks a bit pants. Do not give up, just keep going, because the more layers you add, the better it will look, and you can always change it or adapt it, or just keep going with the layering. Never ever give up and think, oh that's not good enough, and discard it. We don't give up, because often things like this will develop as you go. You can have an idea in your mind, a general idea, and just create and just go with the flow, and what you know, whatever arises, you can guarantee it'll look great at the end. And what I'll often do is I'll just keep adding things and having a look, and because I know it's a trust the process, and if something doesn't look right, I'll keep going until it does look right, rather than giving up and thinking I need to start again. It's very rare that I will abandon a crafty project. So here I'm adding a fairly slim gathered bordering lace to the bottom, so that's going to lift up my top layers a little bit and give a little bit of flounce. It's going to help create a border. It's going to help me know where to cut those strips later on when we've finished, and it's just going to look really pretty. And it keeps the kind of the shape of the dress as well, rather than it just being random strips hanging down, you know, straight down, which is, you know, a bit boring, isn't it? We don't want that. We want it nice and shaped. So there I'm just cutting the shape of the doll a little bit to fit in with what I'm doing. So I've just trimmed her bottom ever so slightly. And then I found a lovely rosebud tulle kind of a trim, so I'm decided I'm using that. But I'm using up this scrap of ribbon as well, because I don't like to waste. So if I can use up the scraps whilst they're on my desk before the end of the project, then I will use them before cutting into something else if possible. So now I'm just looking for a focal point to put around the waist to accentuate it but not overtake it. I've got an awful lot of bits and bobs, and a lot of them were a little bit too large. Those are beautiful floral ribbon clusters, but they're just too big. And so I think I ended up going with just a small bow, and I think I did reduce it, you know, by tightening it and just tacked it on at one side, and that is just enough. So now I can start and trim the longer pieces. There we go, and I've got that broderie anglaise at the bottom there to give me a guide, so I can cut in a nice curve and it will all look really, really pretty. I just trim it ever so slightly shorter so that you can see the frilled lace underneath. And how gorgeous does that look? I'm really impressed with these. I think they're really, really pretty. I do add rhinestones to her hair after the video as well, which looks really nice. And I like them just hanging off the edge of the tag. I think it looks really cute rather than them having to be centralised. So there we go, I'll now show you the rest in a moment. Okay, so I edited parts of the video out because I was faffing about and I didn't want the video to be too long. But here are my finished results. I've made 5 in total. I did a few off camera and I think they've turned out really lovely. So we've got this one here with the lovely wings that you saw me make. This one here that looked like it was a hot mess until it was finished, and it's turned out fabulous. I absolutely love it. And then we've got this one that I made, and then these 2 are made off camera. Now this one is the most simple apart from this one. That is literally just gathered lace wrapped around the body, and then I've tied some silk seam binding into a bow, wrapped it around, tied it into a bow, beg your pardon. And how beautiful does that look? It's really, really pretty. So they're very effective, and you can decorate them as much or as little as you like. As you can see, this one was very minimal and this one's going a little bit overboard. But it's a great way, it's great fun, and it's a great way to use up your bits and bobs of lace that you've got lying about, leftover die cuts, you know, and it's fun. You know, it's fun. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece every time you craft. We don't have to compare ourselves to what other people have done. It's just all about getting our bits and bobs, getting all gluey and having some fun. So I hope these have inspired you to make some pretty paper dolls. Like I say, you can attach them to tags, pockets, the fronts of journals. You can make them as hidden paper clips. You could just tuck them in a pocket and have them as a little doll for fun. Okay, lots of things you can do with them. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.